and he's putting the country and the monarchy first. Well, if that's the case, he should vacate Royal Lodge, because I think the optics of someone like that.
Andrew Lownie, the acclaimed royal historian behind the rise and fall of the House of York, has finally stepped forward with revelations that Buckingham Palace hoped would stay buried. As new discussions surrounding Prince Andrew resurface, Lownie claims he's uncovered classified testimonies, sealed financial records, and shocking personal accounts that could rewrite everything we thought we knew. With a chilling warning that there's a lot more to come, his words have reignited global scrutiny. So, what could these hidden files expose? Today, we uncover Lownie's explosive findings and their royal fallout. The historian breaks his silence. For years, royal author Andrew Lownie had been dismissed as little more than a gossip writer, someone digging too deep into royal closets, best left closed. But when he finally stepped into the spotlight to speak about his findings on Prince Andrew, the tone was no longer speculative. It was chillingly certain. In his words, "We've only seen the tip of the iceberg." Lownie's revelations didn't come from tabloids or hearsay. They came from years of painstaking investigation, 4 years, to be exact, spent tracking witnesses, combing through archives, and untangling financial webs hidden behind the polished facade of royal privilege. His unauthorized biography, The Rise and Fall of the House of York, was meant to chronicle the Duke of York's public and private life, but what he found went far beyond his initial scope. Buried in his research were redacted testimonies, sealed depositions, and financial trails that hinted at a network of questionable dealings tied to Andrew's years as the UK's special trade envoy. When Lownie first approached publishers with his findings, portions of his manuscript were struck out by legal teams. Entire paragraphs vanished overnight, he explained, not because they lacked substance, but because they were too risky. There were things we simply couldn't print, he said, hinting at undisclosed names, payments, and connections that lawyers refused to let pass. Now, with Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir reigniting public scrutiny, Lownie's once suppressed material has gained new life. He describes his sense of vindication with a mix of caution and exhaustion. "When my book came out, they called me a gossip monger," he said during a recent interview. But the evidence is finally catching up. Indeed, much of what was once dismissed as rumor, secretive deals involving royal properties, questionable foreign transactions, and the silence of those paid to stay quiet, now appears to have foundation. What shocks Lownie most is how much remains deliberately hidden.
Originally, trips that we paid for to go to the States, and then he...
Requests he made under the Freedom of Information Act for files related to Andrew's time as trade envoy were either stonewalled or flatly denied. Documents that should have been publicly accessible are still marked classified. In his view, this obstruction is more than bureaucratic. It's systemic. "Our history is being rewritten by those in power," he said. And Prince Andrew's story is only one piece of that larger cover-up. Yet beyond the politics and secrecy lies a human element. Lownie admits he once sympathized with Andrew's former wife, Sarah Ferguson, even meeting her personally in hopes of getting her side of the story. But he claims her reaction was defensive, even threatening, warning publishers that his communications were being monitored. That only deepened his resolve. Today, Lownie's tone carries both defiance and warning. He insists his next revisions will include much of what was once omitted: the financial corruption, the moral collapse, and the palace complicity that allowed it all to happen. For the first time, he hints that what's been revealed so far barely scratches the surface, and as he puts it grimly, there's still a lot more to come. So what exactly is being hidden, and why now, after all these years, are the walls starting to crack? Stay tuned. There's a lot more to come. Andrew Lownie's voice may be calm, but his words cut sharply through the carefully maintained silence of the British monarchy. When he says, "There's a lot more to come," it isn't a passing remark. It's a warning aimed at an institution that has spent decades protecting its own. The royal historian claims to have stumbled upon a trove of withheld documents, confidential exchanges, and restricted files that could, if revealed, reshape how the public views not only Prince Andrew, but the monarchy itself. Lownie alleges that what the world has seen so far The accusations, the settlements, and the endless denials are just fragments of a deeper and far more organized cover-up. He claims that during his 4-year investigation into the rise and fall of the House of York, he came across multiple government archives marked classified, all tied to Andrew's tenure as Britain's special trade envoy. These were records that, under normal circumstances, should have been released into the public domain. Yet when Lownie requested them through the Freedom of Information Act, he says his efforts were repeatedly blocked with what he describes as deliberate obfuscation. To Lownie, the secrecy isn't about security, it's about protection. The royals have built a fortress of privacy around their misconduct, he remarked, suggesting that the National Archives themselves have become an instrument of concealment. He believes the documents include confidential correspondence between Andrew and foreign businessmen, internal discussions within the palace about financial transactions, and even emails that could reveal how far the royal machinery went to silence victims and critics alike. Every time you lift one layer, there's another web of deceit underneath, he said. But Lownie doesn't stop at Andrew. He turns his scrutiny towards Sarah Ferguson.
So, they can't use that as a way of getting at him out.
The Duchess of York, accusing her of playing both sides, a loyal partner in public, but privately complicit in the murky financial arrangements that kept their lavish lifestyle afloat. He claims her charities and business ventures served dual purposes, humanitarian work on one hand and image laundering on the other. They mastered the art of making greed look generous, he remarked, noting that several charitable donations conveniently coincided with periods when the couple faced public backlash. Lownie insists that much of the truth has been sanitized, deliberately edited out of his first publication for legal reasons. He recalls several stories that never made it past the lawyers, including allegations of foreign kickbacks, offshore transfers, and even attempts to discredit accusers using palace-linked public relations officers. Some of these incidents, he says, have since resurfaced through leaked emails and testimony uncovered after Virginia Giuffre's memoir hit the press. His statements have unsettled the palace. Royal insiders reportedly fear that if Lownie's withheld material ever becomes public through an updated edition or court disclosure, it could trigger renewed scrutiny not just of Andrew, but of the monarchy's long-standing exemption from accountability. If the royals were any other institution, Lownie said, they would have been investigated years ago. As speculation intensifies, he remains steadfast that this story isn't over. People think it ended when Andrew stepped back from public life, he told one interviewer. The palace hasn't seen the last of this, he warns. Not by a long shot. But was the palace's sudden move truly about justice, or just another attempt to control the narrative before it unraveled further? Keep watching to find out. The royal family's toughest decision. When the clock struck 7 p.m. that Friday evening, the palace's statement hit like a thunderclap. Prince Andrew would relinquish his royal title, the Duke of York, along with his remaining honors. The news came just as the world braced for the release of Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, which had already reignited public fury and cast a long shadow over Buckingham Palace. For many, the announcement seemed like accountability at last, but for those inside the royal circle, it was the culmination of weeks of anguish, debate, and division. According to insiders, King Charles made the decision only after a series of intense discussions with senior advisors and with the firm support of Prince William. What had begun as quiet frustration within the palace quickly escalated into crisis management as the memoir's revelations spread across headlines. This couldn't have come at a worse time, one aide reportedly said, referring to Charles's upcoming meeting with the Pope and his ongoing health concerns. It was supposed to be a week of unity, not disgrace. While the palace's official statement described the decision as mutual, a voluntary act by Andrew to protect the reputation of the monarchy.
You can, on occasions, get extremely lonely and isolated.
Few believed it was truly his choice. Behind closed doors, sources described it as a forced concession, a final attempt to contain the scandal before it consumed the entire royal household. One courtier confided that the king's patience had simply run out. Charles was torn between a father's love for his brother and a king's duty to the crown, the source said. In the end, the crown had to come first, but the announcement only scratched the surface. As the Duke of York title was withdrawn, royal advisors wrestled with a more explosive question. Should Andrew lose the title of prince altogether? That decision wasn't as simple as removing an honor. It would require a letters patent. Only the king could make that call. Within palace walls, the debate split opinion. Some argued that stripping the title would show moral strength. Others warned it could ignite constitutional chaos. Meanwhile, the public sentiment was unforgiving. Editorials demanded harsher action, and MPs echoed the outrage, questioning why such measures had taken so long. The monarchy's hesitation has cost it dearly, wrote one commentator. Every day of delay looked like complicity. For the royal family, it was a no-win situation. To act decisively risked deepening the family divide. To wait any longer risked losing what credibility remained. Even as the official statement framed Andrew's retreat as voluntary, palace insiders admitted it was more like an ultimatum. Either he stepped back or he would be pushed, one said bluntly. To the outside world, the decision seemed to close a chapter, but within Buckingham's guarded corridors, it was seen as only the beginning of a reckoning, one that might soon reach even higher into the royal ranks. But had the palace truly contained the scandal, or merely buried it deeper behind royal walls? Stay tuned. The palace under pressure. After the announcement of Prince Andrew's title relinquishment, the mood inside Buckingham Palace shifted from tension to quiet dread. Though the public perceived the king's decision as a final act of accountability, insiders knew it was merely the start of a new storm. Andrew had retreated to his residence at Royal Lodge, the sprawling Windsor estate he shared with Sarah Ferguson, and showed no signs of leaving. It was there, behind ivy-covered walls, that the monarchy's most uncomfortable standoff began. Members of Parliament were quick to respond. They demanded tougher measures, calling the loss of Andrew's titles symbolic window dressing. To them, the monarchy's response was too slow, too calculated, and too concerned with image. Newspaper editorials echoed the outrage, insisting that justice should not stop at a ceremony. If any ordinary citizen behaved like this, one member of Parliament declared, they wouldn't be living rent-free on Crown estate property. Calls mounted for Andrew to be removed entirely from Royal Lodge, a move complicated by the ironclad lease he secured years earlier, a deal so secretive even senior officials admitted they hadn't seen the full document. But the greatest pressure came not from Parliament, nor the press, but from within the royal family itself. Prince William, once known for his restraint, reportedly reached his breaking point. The sight of his uncle, still residing in royal luxury, while public anger boiled over, infuriated him. Palace sources described William as seething and determined to draw a new line between the monarchy's future and its disgraced past. William wants modernization, one insider revealed. He believes the monarchy must be transparent, accountable, and clean, and that means cutting Andrew off completely. The clash between William's reformist stance and the king's cautious diplomacy created a rift not seen since the days of Diana's scandal. Charles, torn between the responsibilities of a sovereign and the compassion of an elder brother, preferred quiet containment over confrontation. But William's patience had worn thin. During one private meeting, he reportedly told aides that Andrew's continued presence at Royal Lodge was an insult to every effort the Crown is making to rebuild public trust. Meanwhile, Sarah Ferguson's unwavering loyalty to Andrew only deepened the crisis. She remained by his side, publicly supportive and privately protective, often deflecting criticism with carefully worded interviews. To some royal advisors, her stance was admirable. To others, dangerously defiant. The optics of a disgraced prince living comfortably with his ex-wife on royal land threatened to unravel the monarchy's attempts at damage control. Inside the palace, tempers flared. Senior aides urged the king to take decisive action, warning that silence would be seen as weakness. But Charles hesitated, aware that forcing Andrew out could ignite a family feud the media would feast on.
Hug and
Public displays of affection are not something that I do.
In the end, the palace adopted its oldest strategy, endurance through silence. Yet for the first time in generations, that silence no longer felt like strength. It felt like denial. And as one royal insider put it, this isn't just about Andrew anymore. It's about survival. Either the crown evolves or it breaks from within. But could a single email undo decades of careful royal management and push the monarchy to the brink? Let's find out. The email that changed everything. Just when the palace believed it had contained the worst of the scandal, a single email reignited the fire, and this time it burned dangerously close to the monarchy's core. The leaked message, circulated in the British press and quickly verified by multiple sources, allegedly showed Prince Andrew instructing one of his taxpayer-funded royal protection officers to dig up information on Virginia Giuffre, his longtime accuser. The details were alarming: her date of birth, her social security number, and any traceable personal history that could be used to undermine her credibility. For royal watchers, it was shocking. For those inside Buckingham Palace, it was catastrophic. That email changed everything, one insider admitted. It wasn't just about poor judgment anymore. It was about abuse of power. The revelation painted a picture of a prince willing to weaponize his position, using publicly funded security personnel to wage a private vendetta. Even the palace's most loyal defenders struggled to find justification. The message allegedly included communications between Andrew and a press secretary named Perkins, suggesting that the Duke was coordinating an effort to discredit Giuffre shortly after she first came forward. The tone was casual, almost brazen, as if the Duke believed his royal shield could protect him from scrutiny. When the contents surfaced, senior aides were said to be stunned into silence.
Peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time.
It was, as one put it, the final straw. Across the Atlantic, the reaction was swift. Legal experts in the U.S. warned that if the allegations proved true, Andrew could face a criminal investigation for data misuse and privacy violation. Crimes that carry severe penalties, including potential prison sentences of up to 15 years. American authorities reportedly began reviewing whether the prince had unlawfully shared or obtained personal data belonging to Giuffre, a U.S. citizen. The possibility of a royal figure being investigated on American soil sent shockwaves through diplomatic and royal circles alike. Inside the palace, the fallout was immediate. Advisors scrambled to contain the press while lawyers quietly reviewed potential consequences. King Charles, sources say, was furious but restrained, aware that any public reaction could worsen the situation. Prince William, however, was less composed. He wanted his uncle gone, a palace aide revealed. This email was the final nail in the coffin. Public trust, already fragile, seemed to shatter overnight. Social media erupted with outrage, demanding accountability and transparency. The notion that a member of the royal family might have used state resources for personal retaliation sparked fierce debate about privilege, entitlement, and the limits of royal immunity. As for Andrew, his silence was telling. He neither confirmed nor denied the authenticity of the email, leaving the palace to absorb the blow. But behind the polished gates of Windsor, even his staunchest allies began to admit what few dared say aloud, that this wasn't just another scandal. It was the moment the royal illusion of control finally cracked. So, could one prince's defiance turn a private residence into a public crisis? Let's see what happens next. Inside, the siege of Royal Lodge. From the outside, Royal Lodge looks serene, a stately Georgian mansion nestled within Windsor Great Park, its sprawling gardens exuding peace and tradition. But behind those ivy-draped walls, insiders describe a very different scene, a quiet standoff between a disgraced prince and the monarchy that once shielded him. Despite losing his titles and being pushed out of public life, Prince Andrew refuses to vacate the home that has become both his sanctuary and his symbol of defiance. The king wants him gone, one palace source confided, but Andrew is digging in his heels. He's not leaving without a fight. What might sound like a private family disagreement has, in truth, become one of the most awkward constitutional headaches of King Charles's reign. The problem lies in a secretive lease agreement Andrew secured years ago, an ironclad deal that effectively prevents the palace from evicting him.
We keep up a firm pace because there's so much to do, there are so many opportunities.
According to insiders, the arrangement was made directly through the Crown estate, with little transparency and no open bidding. It was, in many ways, a deal only a royal could make. Now, that deal stands as the king's greatest obstacle. Legally, Andrew can remain at Royal Lodge for decades. Morally, his continued presence undermines every message of reform Charles and Prince William are trying to project. It's a nightmare, one royal aide admitted. You can't throw out your brother, but you can't ignore the damage he's doing either. The tension reportedly reached a boiling point during a private family meeting earlier this year. William, who lives just 3 miles away at Adelaide Cottage, is said to be deeply frustrated by his uncle's refusal to step aside. The optics of Andrew living in a multi-million-pound estate, supported by the same public resources that fund other royal properties, have become untenable. It's like a siege, one insider described. Andrew is surrounded by walls of privilege, but outside those walls, the monarchy's reputation is collapsing. Caught in the crossfire are Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, whose loyalty to their father is now a source of emotional strain. Both women, known for their warmth and discretion, are said to be devastated by the continuing scandal. Friends claim they fear their own reputations and their children's futures may never escape the shadow of their father's mistakes.
On that particular day that we now understand is the date.
They love him, but they're exhausted, said one close friend. Every new headline feels like reopening an old wound. For now, Royal Lodge remains a fortress of silence. The king won't act publicly, Andrew won't move, and the public watches the standoff unfold like a royal drama that refuses to end. As one palace insider put it bluntly, Royal Lodge isn't just Andrew's home anymore, it's his last line of defense. Sarah Ferguson's Silence and Strategy. Amid Prince Andrew's spiraling downfall, one figure has remained curiously steadfast: Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. Once shunned by the royal family for her own controversies, she now stands by her ex-husband with a mix of loyalty and quiet calculation. When Andrew was stripped of his royal titles, Sarah voluntarily relinquished hers as well, framing the move as an act of solidarity. "She's protecting him the way no one else will," a friend confided. But don't mistake that for blind devotion. Ferguson's silence has become her most strategic weapon. While the tabloids speculate about her motives, she avoids public confrontation, maintaining a composed image through charity appearances and media engagements. Insiders say she's acutely aware that her financial stability still depends, at least partly, on Andrew, and on staying within the royal orbit. Yet behind her calm exterior lies a woman who has learned to adapt for survival.
She's with me all day, because she's the only one who really, she and I, we laughed a lot.
Sarah is calculating but loyal, one royal observer noted. She'll stand by Andrew until it stops serving her. Rumors persist that she's quietly preserving documents, emails, and private correspondence, not as blackmail, but as leverage. Those close to her suggest she knows more about Andrew's dealings than anyone else alive. And that knowledge alone makes her untouchable. If Sarah ever spoke freely, one insider remarked, the palace would tremble. Still, for now, she plays the long game. Sharing a roof with Andrew at Royal Lodge, she presents a picture of unity, a partnership built less on romance than on shared survival. Yet those around her sense an undercurrent of pragmatism, the awareness that loyalty in the royal world is conditional, and that her silence, should she ever break it, could shift the balance of the entire saga. But what secrets could Sarah be silently guarding? And how far could they shake the palace if revealed? Keep reading to uncover more. The financial web behind the scandal. Beneath the headlines of scandal and moral outrage lies another story, one that royal commentators like Andrew Lownie insist may hold the true key to Prince Andrew's downfall: money. Behind the allegations of misconduct and the glare of public disgrace runs a pattern of questionable financial dealings that, according to Lownie, stretches back decades. During his years as the UK's special trade envoy, Andrew cultivated relationships with wealthy foreign businessmen and governments, relationships that, at times, blurred the line between diplomacy and private profit. Lownie alleges that secretive deals were struck behind closed doors, often under the guise of promoting British trade. There were whispers of payments, favors, and personal benefits, he noted, but few were willing to speak on record. One of the most damning claims, later redacted from Lownie's book for legal reasons, involved reports of multi-million-dollar gifts funneled to Andrew from foreign associates. Even the National Crime Agency once showed interest in investigating the Duke's financial activities, though those efforts were quietly dropped. Documents that might shed light on the matter remain sealed in the National Archives, a fact Lownie interprets as deliberate protection. If those files were ever made public, he warned, they would raise questions not just about Andrew, but about the royal institution itself. While Jeffrey Epstein's name dominates the scandal, royal insiders suggest the financial element may be the thread that ultimately unravels Andrew's standing. Reports of secret property deals, offshore transfers, and lavish renovations funded through questionable means have long shadowed him. This isn't just about moral failure, one aide remarked. It's about financial entitlement on a royal scale. For the monarchy, this hidden web of money, favors, and silence may prove more damaging than any single accusation, because money, unlike scandal, leaves a trail. So could Andrew's financial dealings be the hidden thread that unravels the monarchy itself? Keep watching to find out. The future of the monarchy. The fallout from Prince Andrew's scandal has forced the royal family to confront an uncomfortable truth. The era of quiet dignity and unquestioned loyalty is over, as King Charles battles his own health challenges and Prince William prepares for eventual kingship. The monarchy stands at a crossroads. The institution that once embodied stability now finds itself defined by crisis management. Every generation of royals faced scandal, one historian noted, but never with this level of visibility or public disillusionment. The Andrew affair, compounded by Prince Harry's estrangement, has given rise to a mocking nickname whispered even within palace walls: the Dukes of Hazard. Both men, in different ways, have exposed the monarchy's vulnerabilities. Andrew through disgrace and denial, Harry through defiance and disclosure. Together they represent two sides of a modern dilemma: the weight of privilege versus the cost of transparency. Historians warn that the royal family's greatest weapon, its mystique, is vanishing. In a world where every secret leaks and every email can go viral, the monarchy's traditional veil of silence feels increasingly outdated. People once believed in the magic of the crown, said one royal commentator. Now they want receipts. The public appetite for accountability grows stronger with each scandal, while younger generations question why monarchy still matters in a democratic age. Inside the palace, Prince William has emerged as the face of renewal, determined to modernize the crown before it collapses under the weight of its past. But reform comes at a price. It may mean severing ties with those once deemed untouchable, including members of his own family. As one insider bleakly put it, the monarchy survives on public faith, and right now, that faith is wearing thin. One more scandal, and even the crown may not be enough to hold it together. So what do you think Andrew Lownie's still hidden files might reveal about Prince Andrew? There's clearly a lot more to come. We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.